Ladies and gentlemen, Kim here. Welcome to the daily update. Hope you guys had a good day trading today. Market is down about 1.5% there on the S&P, pretty much across the board. Down day today. We saw a slight gap up, it looks like, and then continue to see a decline throughout the entire day today. As you can see, that was a first hour gap up, some up and down, was not able to hold that. Second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, came all the way down, actually making lower low here. So let's try to figure out with this analysis today, see if this decline is going to be dismantling potentially an uptrend that we've been seeing in the last couple weeks or several weeks here. So first of all, let's kind of zoom out and trying to figure out where we're at in the overall picture, because sometimes that helps us to gauge. Once we understand the overall picture, where the trend is in the overall picture, then we can understand how we should adjust and our portfolio accordingly. So obviously, in the short term of things, now that the market has already cultivated a lower high here, right? And that's these are lower highs, right? And then by breaking below this low, we do have a short-term downtrend. As of today, I have to label this market bearish in the short term and neutral in the midterm, and I'm going to explain that why I'm still neutral in the midterm. I mean, we've been bullish in the neutral. The reason being is because despite the fact that we saw this decline, I've been labeling this market bullish in the midterm, and then because we are holding above this important pivot. We've been talking about this pivot for about a couple weeks now, right? So we saw that we initially did see a bounce here, and we did make a move to the upside, but this is definitely that strong pivot. It's been holding since pretty much early September, and that was that pivot where you saw that how this market saw these highs here, right? And then we saw that downturn, made a big move, got up here, pull back, definitely a strong pivot. That's why we saw how these two levels did act as resistance. We finally broke above it. We came down near to that pivot. We initially bounced, and then we pulled back. And what happened today? We filled the gap that was opened up on this day here when it was October 8th, right? We gapped up above the important pivot, and it went up to the races to the upside, pulling back. First of all, we have to understand is market pulling back is very normal occurrences, right? This is something that you need to learn to embrace if you are somewhat longer term. Unless you're day trading, you're scalping here and there. Maybe none of these, doesn't matter what happens in the market. But if you consider yourself more of a longer term trader, but you're a longer term investor, these pullbacks is just all part of how this market moves. Market is not gonna go straight up. Once you start learning to embrace these pullback, once you start learning to how to look at the market in an overall picture, I think you will have a better performance in your portfolio. Looking at things in longer term, not letting the short-term fluctuations to get you out prematurely. You know what I mean? Or chasing after, at the highs, and then you're forced to close out near the lows. But anyway, so the gap got filled, didn't it? Right? This gap just got filled. And if you've been following me long enough, you know that when the gap gets filled, it's going to act as support. It did that here. You see this gap? That gap was filled. We did see about day and a half, 2 days, technically speaking, because on the second day it held up here. We did see 2-day rally there. And then on the third day, we were not able to hold it and pulled back. It pulled back, came down, and what happened was there was really no support, technically speaking, today, because the gap did get filled on Friday, that small gap right here, And that's what we did see initially, a gap up this morning, and it was not enough. It was not big enough. We couldn't find any kind of traction from that. And so once it couldn't able to hold for a couple hours, right, this morning, just the bottom fell out, and then there was no support whatsoever. And so then at the time, bears are eyeing on this gap barrier. I tell you what, for the buyers though, I tell you something, that this is better than what if, let's say, the gap never got filled. Let's say this gap never got filled right here. And then this thing kind of came down to 342, leaving the gap. What happens is, I think if we bounce next day, that's actually pretty good signal. However, if this would have been gap down tomorrow while this gap is open, if you would have gap down below that, I'm saying if this gap wasn't filled today, that would have been big island top reversal, and that could bring this market back down to 333, potentially even 333 or 330. Probably a lot of these gaps going to get filled if we did see that island top. At least bears bring it down all the way, fill the gap while getting breached and hitting that pivot level today. So that's going to act as pretty strong support. So as of today, obviously I labeled it earlier, the short term is bearish because we got these lower highs now and lower lows. But in the midterm, I'm going to be more of a neutral to bullish. I think I said neutral, but I'm going to be a little bit more neutral to bullish in the midterm because we did just fill that gap. Technically, my midterm moving average is starting to, we don't know it, it's hard to tell, still technically rising, right? Still technically rising. So that's kind of why I'm giving it neutral to bullish in the midterm. Not to mention, we are still in the midterm sense. That high is higher than this high. This low, higher low. We don't know where the higher low is yet. Is it going to be here or is this going to be here? As long as this thing bounces anywhere above, 333, anywhere in this vicinity. Also, what I'm going to do, I'm going to put a Fibonacci here, and they'll give us kind of well-defined a higher low vicinity, potential higher low. So right now, it is no coincidence. The gap got filled. That 340 level is, colliding, right? Coinciding with my first level of Fibonacci. Do you see that? That's the first level of Fib, second level of Fib, last level of Fib. What Fib level gives us is that as long as we bounce anywhere in that vicinity, right? Anywhere in that vicinity, it is still considered as higher low. That's a low. That's a low. Anywhere in this vicinity is still considered as higher low. And because we already got the higher highs, that's why in the midterm, I'm not giving it completely neutral. I'm still giving it neutral to bullish because we still have that formation. We still have that posture, that bullish uptrend posture. Once we break below these levels though, like 330 or something like that, be more bearish to neutral at the time in the midterm. So we're kind of right on that juncture where we probably gonna see some support, and because we just filled the gap. What the bears need to do, because bears know that we just filled the gap and that's gonna act as support, best bet for the bears is gapping it down and keeping this momentum going tomorrow morning. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna move this. I'm going to move one of the support levels to 338. Why? Because that's where that support level is because of the gap area. So I'm going to put another one here. So it will be important support here because we got 340, which is a current support. That gap just got filled, coinciding with my first level of Fib. The second support is the gap area from here, right? That's a gap because that's where it closed that day. And then next day, first hour gapped up open here. So its gap starts from 334. And then that's where my second level of Fibonacci is residing. So it's that vicinity. So again, these gaps are great because it's going to provide solid support as bears trying to bring it down. Sooner or later, bears are going to get tired because we're on an uptrend. And then buyers are going to try to take advantage of that. So going into tomorrow, let's say short-term bearish, bears can keep continuing that momentum, but in the midterm, we still have to maintain bullish posture, bit maybe neutral though, maybe just because we're seeing some short-term downtrend developing, and that could be dismantled if the buyers can get up here and start doing that. So that could be a little while, maybe a week or two. And with the election coming up in a couple weeks, market might stall here, down to stall or some kind of a grinding move. That's kind of what I think is going to happen until the election. So I remain bullish, but maybe neutral to bullish in the midterm. Obviously long-term bullish, as you've seen my weekend video. Let's check out that oscillator and then see where we're at. So the oscillator, I tweeted out this morning when the oscillator was actually crossed down, and we're looking at this support here. We broke below it, and then we continued lower towards the end of the hours there. But looks like we actually have more room to move to the downside. Bears still have a lot of energy left. It is not oversold. Despite the fact that, bears brought it down the entire day today, there's still a lot of room to move to the downside. That means bears can, if they really want to utilize this and wants to make more move to the downside, maybe a little pop here in the first hour or two and then pull back, there's a good chance bears can even try to come down here at 338 because there's still a lot of room for the move, right? So I'll come back for you guys tomorrow morning, or I'll tweet things out tomorrow morning, but tomorrow night I'll come back for you guys. I'll re-examine the situation, but my kind of a hunch is that market probably not going to make a whole lot of big move to the upside going into the election. We just filled the gap. We're probably going to see some kind of support unless there's some kind of gap down. If buyers going to try to bring it up, what they need to do is that they really need to utilize where we're at as far as the price is concerned. This is important pivot. Gap just got filled. So maybe a gap up and at least couple hours of bullish move. But right now the problem is we got these lower highs here. My short-term moving average is declining. It's going to need more than a couple hours move right now. Even if it's like 2-3 hours of move, it could hit my short term and then just come right back down. So keep that in mind. We are in a short to micro term bearish trend. So any kind of pop, you could see weakness unless they really need to bring it up. So it's going to take more than just a couple days for buyers to change that short-term sentiment to bullish. It's going to take more than a couple weeks for that midterm sentiment to change bearish. Do you understand what that means? Short-term bearish, neutral to bullish in the midterm. We'll see how the market plays out tomorrow. Enjoy your evening. Good luck trading tomorrow.